I found my heart medication sitting on the hood of a police cruiser while an evidence technician photographed my HOA president's mulch pile like it was a murder scene. Across the cul-de-sac, Paula herself, wearing pearls, a visor, and an expression of trembling indignation, was reciting the Pledge of Allegiance to a postal inspector who kept saying, "Ma'am, this is a federal issue." I'm Miles Hanley, a quiet accountant who owns a modest ranch house on Sycamore Glen Loop, the kind of neighborhood where pressure washing your driveway is practically a competitive sport. I keep to myself, mow my lawn on Saturdays, and wave when someone waves at me first. The HOA is run by Paula Concincaid, who everyone calls Polly, a woman who genuinely believes Robert's Rules of Order were handed down to her personally on stone tablets. My mail-order prescriptions, cardiac medications with GPS-enabled temperature trackers, arrive every month like clockwork. Until they didn't. First, it was a pink friendly reminder note taped to my front door complaining about my unapproved mailbox flag color. Apparently, my flag was too blue. Then came a citation for having my trash cans visible from the street for approximately 4 minutes past the 7 a.m. pickup deadline. Then I caught security camera footage of Polly hovering near my porch at 7 in the morning, measuring my welcome mat with a tape measure like it owed her money. She was muttering numbers into a voice recorder and taking photographs from multiple angles. My neighbors started whispering that she'd launched something called Compliance Watch, complete with binoculars, clipboards, and golf cart patrols with a siren that sounded suspiciously like a broken kazoo. She'd apparently recruited 2 other board members, but they quit after the first patrol when she tried to make them wear matching orange safety vests that said Aesthetic Enforcement Officer on the back. The month my medications were due to arrive, the tracking app on my phone said delivered. My front porch said absolutely not. I checked my doorbell camera footage and there she was, Paula Concincaid herself, in broad daylight, lifting my padded envelope like she caught a prize-winning trout and tucking it into her canvas tote bag that read proud to be HOA in glitter letters. I confronted her the next morning at the community gazebo during her regular clipboard rounds. She smiled at me the way a cat smiles at a trapped bird. "Board approved hold," she said cheerfully. We noticed non-compliant packaging visibility. The pharmaceutical logo clashed with neighborhood aesthetics. I stared at her for a solid 10 seconds. "You're telling me you stole my heart medication because you didn't like how the package looked," I said. She bristled at the word stole and corrected me with a condescending smile. "Temporarily relocated for aesthetic review," she said. "The board has a responsibility to maintain property values. Your medication will be returned once we've determined appropriate screening protocols." I asked her what screening protocols meant for a package that was supposed to be delivered directly to me. She pulled out her phone and showed me a 17-page document titled Pharmaceutical Delivery Visual Impact Assessment Guidelines that she'd apparently written herself. It included a color wheel and font size restrictions. Non-compliant packaging visibility. I had to repeat it in my head 3 times to make sure I'd heard her correctly. She'd also posted on our neighborhood Facebook group implying that I was running an unlicensed pharmacy out of my garage. 3 middle school kids rode past my house on bikes the next day and asked if I could hook them up with Flintstones vitamins. It would have been funny if it wasn't so infuriating. I opened my pharmacy app and found a feature I'd never used before: chain of custody detail. The package's temperature sensors and geo-fenced location breadcrumbs painted a very clear picture. From the courier truck to Polly's garage, where it sat for 67 minutes at 89 degrees Fahrenheit, which my medication absolutely cannot tolerate. Then it moved to the HOA office shed behind the community pool. That's not mail misdelivery. That's mail interference, and it's a federal crime. I called the pharmacy immediately. They connected me to their compliance team, who escalated my case to the Postal Inspection Service because the package had the RX handle with CARE logo and was delivered via USPS handoff. While I waited for a callback, Polly decided to double down on her strategy. She emailed me a fine schedule demanding $150 for illegal porch clutter, meaning the package, and $75 for unsafe heart medication signage, which apparently is a thing she made up. Then she sent me a cease and desist letter she'd clearly downloaded from a legal template website. She'd used find and replace to change all instances of tenant to serf but missed 2 of them. The postal inspector arrived 3 days later with a local police officer. They knocked on Polly's door and asked politely if she had any packages belonging to other residents. She produced a different envelope, same pharmacy, wrong name entirely. Right at that moment, my phone chimed with an alert. package in motion. Current location: HOA common area mulch bed. She had buried my medication under pine straw like a squirrel hoarding nuts, except this squirrel had a law degree from nowhere and an attitude problem. The postal inspector, who had the kind of smile that reminded me of a stapler, very mechanical and not particularly warm, started reading federal statutes out loud. Mail theft. Intentional delay or destruction of mail. Tampering with prescription medication. The police officer asked permission to check the storage shed. Inside was what Polly had labeled her compliance holding area, which consisted of a folding table stacked with at least a dozen packages, 2 garden gnomes standing guard like sentries, and a 3-ring binder labeled evidence in glitter letters. My medication was sitting there on top, warm as fresh toast. Neighbors started gathering in their driveways, holding dog leashes and iced coffee cups, watching the spectacle unfold. Polly kept insisting over and over, "I am the board," which is definitely not a sentence that winners say. The inspector carefully collected everything from the shed and scanned the GPS tag embedded in my medication blister pack. The ping confirmed that it had been removed from its original temperature-controlled packaging outside of recipient control. Combined with her defamatory Facebook post, we were now solidly in fraud territory too. They escorted Polly to the curb to ask her some additional questions. That's when she made her move. She attempted a dramatic getaway in the HOA golf cart, which had a top speed of about 18 miles per hour and died completely next to my hydrangea bushes. The KAZOO-SIREN gave one pathetic wheeze. The police officer did what might have been the world's slowest jog, reached into the cart, and turned off the key with the most bored expression I've ever seen. The emergency HOA board meeting happened 2 nights later. It was open to the public per bylaws that Polly apparently never actually read. The postal inspector brought a laptop and projected the entire chain of custody map onto the community center wall. When the little red dot appeared over the mulch bed location, the room let out a collective gasp. My neighbor Tom, who's lived here for 30 years, raised his hand and asked in genuine confusion if the compliance holding area was an actual authorized program. The inspector looked at him very seriously and said, "If by program you mean felony, then yes." Polly attempted one final defense. She stood up, straightened her visor, and announced that the Architectural Control Committee had granted her mail stewardship privileges at last quarter's meeting. The Architectural Control Committee, 3 retired guys who only showed up for the free donuts, blinked at her in perfect unison. One of them said slowly, "We granted you permission to repaint the pool chairs." That's it. Just the chairs. The postal inspector placed Paula Concincaid under arrest right there in the community center. Someone's phone camera flashed. At least 6 people were recording video. As the handcuffs clicked into place, Polly's expression cycled through disbelief, rage, and finally a kind of confused indignation that suggested she genuinely could not understand why stealing mail and tampering with medication might be illegal. "But I'm the president," she kept saying. "I'm the president of the HOA." The inspector responded calmly that the presidency of a homeowners association does not grant immunity from federal law. She demanded to speak to his supervisor, then the mayor, then someone named Carol who apparently owed her a favor. The officer gently guided her toward the door while she shouted over her shoulder that this was all a misunderstanding and she'd be back at the next board meeting. The KAZOO-SIREN, now tagged as evidence, gave one mournful little honk from the property table as if blessing the moment with its dying breath. Polly was formally charged with mail theft and federal mail interference. The county district attorney added reckless endangerment for tampering with temperature-sensitive prescription medication. The judge set bail at $25,000. Her lawyer tried to argue community ties and lack of flight risk, but the prosecutor just played the golf cart getaway footage. Bail was denied pending trial. 6 weeks later, she took a plea deal. 18 months in federal prison, 3 years probation, and a lifetime ban from holding any fiduciary role in a homeowners association anywhere in the country. She also had to pay a $10,000 fine to the Postal Service and complete 200 hours of community service at the post office, sorting mail under the supervision of the same inspector who arrested her. When the judge read the sentence, Polly's face went from red to white to a shade of purple I didn't know existed on the human color spectrum. She tried to speak, but no sound came out. Her lawyer gently pulled her back down into her seat. The gavel came down, and just like that, Compliance Watch was officially over.